Alright, and we're back for another painting tutorial, and today we're going to paint a Putrid Blightkings. This video was supposed to be the new Rotbringer Sorcerer. However, because of a storm system, according to UPS, that shipment is completely delayed until next week, and so I don't have the Rotbringer Sorcerer, but the next best thing is, of course, a Putrid Blightkings. The techniques will be the same for painting Nurgle. It just won't, unfortunately, be on the new model. But I still hope to paint the Rotbringer either in another video or on stream. We'll see. But in any event, let's get going on this. I primed him in Wraithbone Primer, Wraithbone Spray from Games Workshop. And we're going to go straight into Plaguebearer Flesh. This is the color I have been using on my Plaguebearers, obviously. But also, in combination with some other colors, is going to work great for these guys. So we're just going to apply this all over the skin, and if it gets on other bits of him, that's not a big deal. I'm going to apply this all inside this hole he has, this mouth he has in his stomach here. We are going to put other colors in there, but as I've said before, especially when we're using contrast like this, it doesn't hurt to apply the lighter color on more than just what you want to be that color, because you can always come back and paint over it. But then if you run out of time painting the miniature, or just decide, I'm sick of this, I want to be done, then you don't have just bits of primer sticking out that you have to then paint. You just have more of this light color. So say, for instance, in 20 minutes I get a phone call or something and I have to stop painting. Now all that will just be green, and I won't ever have put the second color on it, but it won't just be bare primer. So that's why I do that. And because we're going to use a darker color on it, we'll just paint right over the green and it won't be a problem. It wouldn't work as well, it wouldn't work at all, I guess, if we were starting with a dark color and we wanted to paint over it later with a lighter color, unless that color was a non-contrast color, of course. So this will be the last bit here of this. These guys can be a little confusing because it's sometimes hard to tell what is skin and what is armor. I believe this is skin, though, because their armor is kind of beat up and pockmarked, just like their skin is. So sometimes it can be tricky. But I think I've got it. I think I've got it all here. So, I'll just go around the miniature and double check and make sure I have all the skin completely covered. Wait for that to dry, and I'll come back and we'll do the next step. Alright, we're back, and our Plaguebearer Flesh is either dry or drying. Dry enough, anyway, to move on to the next step, which is going to be Blood Angel's Red. And we're going to put this on basically every bit of flesh that looks like the skin came off of. So all these little holes and stuff. We're just going to put that in there like that. And if it touches the skin around the hole a little bit, no big deal. And as you can see, there's some of the green is not quite dry in there, but that's all good. It'll just mix in and make it look a little pussy or something. So then what we're also going to do is get inside the mouth with this color. In there. Like that. And then we're also going to paint the teeth with this, because we're going to come back and paint the teeth a teeth color. But when we do, we're going to leave a little bit of this red showing at the base of each tooth, and that'll really help sell the effect of the mouth here. So we'll just go like that. And we're also going to get the inside of his mouth, and painting all the way up to the edges of the teeth for the same reason as I just talked about. And then just finish getting all these spots where the skin has torn off or rotted off or something. So I'll just keep going around the miniature here and finding all these pockets and filling them in. Then we will, once I do that, the next step does not require this to be dry, so I'll just finish this up, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, and we're back, and we're going on to the next step, and that will be a non-contrast color, and that'll be Cadian Flesh Tone. And for this, we're going to put this on all of the raised bits on the flesh. So all these little pustules or whatever they are. All these are going to be this Cadian Flesh Tone color. And then we still have 2 more steps to go on the skin. But for those steps, we really want the rest of the skin to be dry. So we will, after this step, move on to some other stuff. And as you can see, when I did the red, I didn't fill in every single one of these. Like, I left some of the holes. And it's really just personal preference. I just didn't feel like getting them all and taking the time to do that. You could if you wanted to, but I plan on painting a bunch of these guys for my Nurgle army. So, you know, if I don't hit every single detail on every single one, it won't be the end of the world. I'm just highlighting his face a little bit with this stuff. Again, that's sort of just personal preference, what you choose to pick out and what you don't. So I'm just going to work my way around the rest of the model here, picking out these little details. Then, again, we don't need this to dry to do our next step, so I'll just finish this up, and we'll come back and start on the cloth. Alright, we're back, and before we go to the next color, I'll just say I also took some of that Cadian Flesh Tone and put it just around a couple of the red spots right there, around the teeth here, and I did a little bit around there and around that one. So, again, personal preference, how much you use and how much you don't, but that's what I did. And next, we're moving on to Snakebite Leather, and we're going to put this on the leather and the cloth of this guy. So that's going to be the strap first, and if we get a little bit on the skin, it's not the end of the world, but I'm trying to be as neat as possible and keep it just on the leather. Get it in the folds of his skin there, and then come around and get the back side of it and down into the fold. Okay. Then I'm going to switch to the bigger brush to do the rest. And I'll get down here. This pouch will also be this color. I think there's supposed to be a belt holding this up, but it's in the folds of his skin, so we don't have to paint it. Alrighty, almost. And then what else? Oh, and then the boots will be this color as well. So yeah, that will do it for that step. I think. Oh, and I'll do the wrapping on his axe blade as well in this color. But yeah, I'll finish this up. I'm not sure what the next step is going to be yet, so we'll either let this dry and then come back, or we won't let this dry and we'll come back and work on something else. Either way, I'll see you in a second. Alright, we're back. And we're going to do the armor now, and I do my armor for my Nurgle guys a little bit differently than some might, but I'm going to use Aethermatic Blue for this. I like how the blue sort of offsets the green and the red, and I just like how it looks. We'll probably need 2 coats for this, because it's kind of a pastel-y color if you just do the 1 coat. But yeah, so I'm just going to put this on all the armor. That'll be the shoulder pad here, the elbow here, the knees, and yeah, just that. So I'll put that on there, wait for it to dry, and we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, and we're back. We did a second coat of blue, and we also did a second coat of the Plague Bearer flesh while we were gone. I don't remember if I mentioned that I was going to do a second one when I did the first one, but I always do 2 on these guys, give it a more vibrant color. So, now we're going to move on to the metal, well, I guess besides the armor, And for that, we're going to start with Mournfang Brown. And this might seem counterintuitive at first, that we're just painting the metal brown. But this is so that we can do the metal in a very quick way. Again, if you're painting Nurgle guys, you might be painting a lot of them. Maybe not if you're going the, like, Blight Lord route, but if you're going the Blightkings or Plague Bearer route, then you're going to be painting a lot of them, and so we want to do them quick. So, these swords are very, or this metal is very pockmarked and corroded and stuff, so we're going to start with this Mournfang Brown that's sort of a rust color, and then we'll dry brush over it with a steel color, and that'll give us a rough approximation of beat up and corroded metal. It won't be perfect, but when there's 50 of the dudes standing next to each other, or even just 10 dudes standing next to each other, it'll look just fine. So I'll just finish this up. This will be on the axe. Already did the sword. I'll get that chainmail right there, and yeah, on this guy that'll be that. So I'll do this, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, we're back, and our brown is still drying, but we're going to move on to our flayed one flesh, and that's going to be our bone color. And we're going to do the teeth first, using a smaller brush here, and just going to get the two teeth on the top and the bottom that this guy has. Just like that. And then we're going to get the bigger teeth here, and this is, remember I talked about how we're going to leave a little bit of red showing at the base of each of these teeth. A stronger coat on there. There we go. And you can leave as much or as little of the red showing as you want. I'm just doing a pretty small amount, but still enough that you can see it's red. There we go. And then just make sure to get the underside here, if there's any showing. There we go. And then smooth that out a little bit. And there we go. Alright, and then I'll just look for other... Oh, right, he has two horns on him. I'm going to switch to the bigger brush for this. And I'll start with the one in the armor here. Make sure to get all the way down in there. You could, if you wanted, do the horn and then do the armor, but it's just how I chose to do it this time. And then I'll get this horn on his head. And get a nice smooth coat of this on there. And I think that's all the bone on this guy. Yes, it is. Okay. So I will let this, let the brown that we did earlier keep drying a little bit, and then we'll come back and do the next step on that stuff. Alright, we're back, and our Mournfang Brown is mostly completely dry. And now we're going to go on to Iron Hand Steel. And we're just going to get this on the brush and wipe some of it off. We're going to go for an overbrush technique here, not dry brush and not pure painting, but overbrushing. So we're just going to, oh, still got a little too much on the brush there. There we go. So we're just going to start at the top and come down like this. Like that. And so now you can see we've got some silver, we've still got some brown in there, and for quick and easy, which is what we're going for, that'll work just fine. So again, starting at the top, come down. That, and then the hilt right here. Get a little bit more paint on the brush, and then we'll do the chainmail. Same way we just did the other stuff. Just want to leave the brown in there. Then we'll do the axe here. And just make sure to get it on the shaft of the axe as well. There we go. And on this side of the blade, and then get it on the top here. there. And that is our metal done. So I think we can move straight into the next step without pausing the camera here. And for that, we're going to grab this sulfide ochre from Army Painter. You could use any yellow, to be honest, any like mustardy yellow. I just am using this because I've got it right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my palette here. And then we're just going to take this and put it in with the red. This doesn't cover the best if you're trying to actually get coverage with it, but for our purposes, it's just going to act like a little bit of pus and go in and kind of mix with this red and give us a nice color. I'm specifically not using the Games Workshop, what is it called? Pus of Nurgle or something like that. I can't remember exactly. There's a specific pus paint. I don't want it to be that green on here. And it's on every Nurgle army. I know. Oh, Nurgle's Rot, that's what it's called. I know it's not necessarily a bad thing that's on every Nurgle army. I just want it to be a little bit different and not use that. But you could, if you wanted to, use Nurgle's Rot. You would just substitute it for the color I just used, and you'd be all set. So then, we're going to go on to the last step for the skin, which is Maggot's Purple. Well, I guess not quite the last step, but getting to the last step. And we're going to put this in and around the red and the yellow. So, like, it's kind of bruised skin around this. So we're just going to put this all around. If it gets on the teeth, that's okay. Put this around like this. Put it up around the mouth. Down here. Basically anywhere where we have one of those open sores, we just want to get it in there. And in some places we can spread it out so that it's just kind of almost just a light brown, and in some we can keep the purple. Just depends how much we spread it out on the area. Get some up there. And there we go. So now he's starting to look a little more Nurgle-y. I'm just gonna put a little bit on this skin that's popped out there. Right there, and a little on his hand, I think. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so we'll let all this dry, and then we'll come back and do a couple washes, and we'll call him done. Alright, and we're back, and we're going to do the last 3 steps all at once here. We're going to start with Agrax Earthshade, a great color. And we're going to put this on the bone, as well as the teeth. On the leather, at least in some parts of it. And then possibly the metal we're going to evaluate. But definitely first on the bone here. Put it on pretty lightly. You don't want to overpower the bone color. Just tint it a little bit. There we go. I'm going to speck of Mournfang Brown on the armor there. There we go. Now it's just a bit of dirt. And then put them on the teeth here. I'm going to put it on the teeth, and then I'm just going to take my finger and wipe off so that the tips of the teeth still appear pretty vibrant. So I don't want them to be blending into the surface. Whoop, I'm closing my paint here. I don't need to do that. So I'm going to put it on the leather now. This is just to shade the leather a little bit more. Contrast paint will be fine on its own, but just a Agrax on top of the snakebite leather will really make it pop. So I'm going to do that. I also put it on the chainmail, as something with as fine a texture as chainmail, more contrast on it will never be a bad idea. So I'm just going to do this here on this other boot. There we go. And then on the bag here. Okay. And then the leather strap going along here. And then I think I'm going to do it just a little bit on these weapons. They'd probably be fine to leave, but I think I'm going to just help them along a little bit with this. Dull that silver down just a little bit more. so that it doesn't look too fresh and shiny. There we go. Alright, and then we're going to grab our Nuln Oil, and this is going to go on the blue armor. First of all. And it just dulls it down a tiny bit and helps it blend in with the rest of the model. Get it in there. And make sure to get it back here. Alright, then I'm going to take my small brush and this Nuln Oil and just do a couple little lines of it on some of the folds that he has, just to accentuate them a little bit. This is not necessary, but I like making those folds pop out a little bit. So I'm going to make sure not to get too much paint on there, because it will stain the surrounding area. We just want to be accentuating the gaps in skin. It's probably a little too much. I'll just wipe it off. And we'll get in here. And then maybe in the fingers right there. And then maybe just a little bit under here, just to darken that up a little bit. And then I'm going to go in on the blue armor, and anywhere that the Nuln Oil didn't collect in those little pock marks, I'm just going to make sure it gets in there. It seemed to have grabbed the rest, though. So there we go. We'll just let him dry. Now, oh, no, one last step. We got to do his eyeball. For that, Dark Angel's green. You could do another step if you wanted and put like a light green dot in his eye, but I don't think I will. Maybe I will. We'll see. When I do his base and all that, maybe I'll put a light green dot. We'll see. You'll see in just a second, because this concludes him. Right about now, you should be seeing him on a base, or at least on a vague base. Maybe not fully done up, but you know, a color and maybe a tuft or two. But yeah, that'll do it. Again, I'm sorry that this wasn't the Rotbringer Sorcerer. I really was hoping that he would come in on time. Usually he does, but there were weather delays apparently, and so hopefully we'll get him pretty soon, and I'll get a video or a stream out on him. But the techniques on this guy should apply to any Nurgle model pretty much. So, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.